Welcome to the Made2Homeschool Podcast. I'm Brandon, and my wife, Brigitte, and I are the founders of Made2Homeschool. In this episode, I had the opportunity to interview our friend Morgan from Life of Tillmans on YouTube. Morgan and her husband, also Brandon, have been married for 14 years, having met in college 20 years ago. Morgan has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in biology and the other in nursing. She's been homeschooling their 3 daughters, ages 12, 10, and 6, following over a decade in the nursing field. She also homeschooled her nephew through 7th and 8th grade. Morgan has always had a passion for teaching. However, she never imagined she'd be doing it through homeschooling. I've gotten to know Morgan over the last couple of years and found that she's full of both knowledge and wisdom. Those are different things, but I think if you listen in today, you'll get some of both. Let's get into it. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today for this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I told you ahead of time we're going to talk about some basic stuff to get started. One of those is you've been homeschooling for how many years now?
We are about to hit 7 years.
7 whole years of homeschooling. And
Yes.
How did you guys get there, Morgan? What was that process like? How did you know homeschooling was the right choice for your family?
I don't even know if I can make this a short story, but I'm going to try. So we had our first child, and you go through that and you're like, I just want the time. I just want all the time that I can get with my little baby. So I go back to work as a nurse. We have our second child about 1.5 years later. And I'm telling my husband, like, I want the time. I want the time. In that moment, I didn't know that time would look like us homeschooling, but I just wanted the time. So I stopped working as much. We moved. All the things happened. Then we kind of put our kids in and out of like Mother's Day out, things like that. They went to a private, what I would call preschool. And I was still missing that time. But then it was like everything that they're learning, we work on that at home. I had a whole room set up with posters all over the wall, all the things. And we would work on those things because that's what we did every day to pass the time so that they're not sitting doing nothing. And then one day we were pregnant with our youngest. And I thought to myself, why are we sending our children to school when we can do all of this at home? So we pulled them out of their school about a month before our youngest was born, and they've been out ever since. And that's how we started homeschooling. But there are so many signs that I just didn't pay attention to. I didn't know, but God placed it that way. We were looking for a school for them to go to. They wouldn't let us come and tour the school. They didn't have a teacher's assistant. I know they didn't. They did not want us to come and tour. They're like, no, you can't come tour while children are here. It has to be after hours, like 4:00 when school is out. And you want to see the action. You want to see how the teachers are interacting with
100%.
the students. They would not allow us to do that. I also ask about how many the student to teacher ratio. They're like, we have 30 students. Oh, do you have an assistant? No, just one teacher. I was like, what in the world is happening? There were just so many different things that just really catapulted us in that direction. And so when I finally told my husband, let's homeschool, we should do it. We had met another homeschool family through YMCA basketball, and it just kind of unfolded like that. And when I did mention it to him, he kind of looked at me like, well, and he thought about all the things that we had been trying to do and how many things had not been going right. And just the feelings that we had about putting our girls into another school, it just didn't sit well. And that was the Holy Spirit telling us, no, this is not where they should be. They should be at home. On top of you wanting all the time, now you get to educate your girls. And that's how it unfolded.
And now, a few things here. You've got 3 girls, right?
Yes,
And
we have a 12, 10, and 6-year-old.
12, 10, and 6. And now you mentioned your youngest. I don't know her name. I've only ever heard you call her baby girl.
Yes,
But
her name is Mallory.
Mallory. That one's Mallory. Okay.
Yes.
So Mallory's 6.
Yes, she will be 7 in April.
Your oldest is 12. So that makes sense. So when your oldest was 5 or so, 4 or 5, you start this process. And at that
Yes.
time, you're a full-time RN, right?
Yes, I was working full time. So I would do 3 days night shift, and then my mom would watch the girls or my sister would watch them overnight because we just had the 2. And then I would come home and I would do things with them in the morning and stay up, and we would all take naps together, and I would sleep on the couch while they were watching educational TV. Like, it was a whole process. We had a system going and we worked through that. And then I slowly backed out of full-time nursing. as they got a little bit older.
How hard was that? Because you think that people really struggle with the idea that they could possibly work and homeschool.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard. I won't act like it was an easy process at all, but it was so worth it. My girls vaguely remember that time, but they remember us doing school things. They remember working with my mom. She would come over and do things with them. They remember those, but it was a struggle. But our reason for doing it outweighed all of that. It outweighed all the sleepless nights and, just everything. It completely outweighed it, and it was worth it. And when we got to a point where financially I could back out of working altogether, it was all a part of God's plan. And it's been working for us ever since. But it was a challenge for sure.
You got a 6-year spread from oldest to youngest. You
Yeah.
started when you were pregnant with your youngest, right?
Yes.
Okay. How are they, or rather, how are your approaches with each of them different? Do you use the same educational approach with all the kids? What does that look like for you?
No, completely different for them. I'm actually honestly still working through my approach with my youngest.
Sure.
We're on the process of reading, so I'm trying to figure out, what really sparks joy for her, and we go in that direction. But my middle daughter is very kinesthetic in her learning, so everything that she likes to do, any hands-on components I can add to what she is learning, it is an absolute must, and she thrives off of that environment. My oldest is a show me. She's a very visual learner. She has a very vivid imagination. She's my writer. She loves to read tons and tons of books of all genres. And so for her, if I can create a visual aspect for her, I will. She does not like the hands-on. She's not my science girl. She's not my STEM robotics girl. And so for each of them, in every area that I possibly can, I try to incorporate what it is and the best way for them to be able to learn the material. That can be challenging when you have 3 different children and working through it, but we've gotten into a really good groove. And the girls know what to pull out for whatever subject. If my kinesthetic learner is working on math, she knows to pull out all of the manipulatives, and we work from there. The visual aspect for my oldest daughter, we have whiteboards everywhere. So it's, how can we diagram this sentence or this math problem? Let's work it out actually on the board to where she can see big picture start to finish. It's a whole process, but it took us some time to get there. And I suspect that as we grow, as they get older and we continue homeschooling, some of that may change, and I'll have to change as they progress in their learning and make those adjustments.
Morgan, do you think, well, I think what I'm hearing you say is that you actually put a lot of emphasis on the individualization of learning styles of your kids. And I hear people, the whole learning style theory is under fire right now too, right? Because, well, it's not really true and everybody's got this and that. Do you have, my guess is you actually have researched this a lot and you have strong opinions on it.
I do.
I would love to hear those. Would you share those?
So my opinion when it comes to individualized learning styles, yes, I believe that they are 100% a huge factor in how we are to homeschool our children. If we want our children to learn things, be active and interested in things, we have to make that appealing to them. I look at it as like, I'll never forget a Cosby Show episode where he talked about presenting a steak or something, and it was all steak and potatoes and all the vegetables, but then you put it on a trash can lid. Who's eating that? No one is going to eat off of a trash can lid, right? So to me, that's how I look at it when I'm educating my girls. If I'm trying to work with my kinesthetic learner and I'm giving her all visual aid, that's not going to work for her. She needs to be able to put her hands on it. Our homeschool is better now than what it was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, because I have started making sure that my girls have individualized learning. They don't all do the same curriculum every day, all the time. I have one in a different math curriculum. That's because it works better for her than it does for my middle child. So in my opinion, the people who feel like learning styles and individualized learning doesn't matter, I disagree. And I just have to say, for my home, it's a big deal. It sets the tone for everything that we do every single day.
Well, I just think about being in school. I was public schooled, 20 something years ago, but I was public schooled, and I remember I was a good student, let's say. But in some classes, I did miserably, and then I would take that class with another teacher. I'm thinking specifically Algebra 2. I had one teacher who I think she set out to prove you were dumb. That was just like her goal. And she did, curve, no, there was no grading on a curve in her class.
No grading on a
And
curve.
like 2/3 of her class had C's or below. I
Wow.
took that class with a different teacher who seemed to actually like his students and care about engaging with them. And I did far better. Now that's anecdotal, but I tend to agree with you. And I don't know, I haven't studied these fields, but I think that the uniqueness, and this is something I care about in general with people, is everybody being so unique, approaching them uniquely is important. And here's the thing, it scares me, Morgan, because we are starting homeschooling. I got two that are like, I got 3, but we got one's 3 weeks old right now, so he ain't doing nothing. He's learning to
Doesn't matter right now.
poop.
In the
That's what he's doing.
homeschooling arena.
Like, eat, poop, sleep. That's it. Cry.
Right.
And almost 5. They're so different. And I'm listening to you right now thinking, this is my future. Because he's going to be home with us after Christmas. So this is his last full week of school.
Yep.
After Christmas, he's home. Now, like you said, and I think this is important, and I think that many parents do this, not even realizing it. I've been educating him his whole life.
Absolutely.
Because I love being intentional. When something comes up, when he has a question, and I have the time to stop and go, hey, buddy, actually, let's dig into that. My boy, at 5 years old, could calculate the tithe on any income, right? Because he asked me about the tithe, and I was teaching him about stewardship. And I was like, look, buddy, this number is really just this number with a decimal and some zeros. Just move that. That's it. And now,
Easy. Yeah.
right, you can do that. So I
Yep.
think I know how to teach him. My little girl, I'm working on it, but I'm realizing it really all has to be unique. What about something that I know you guys are intentional about, because I know you're a very faith-filled family? How do you incorporate your faith in your homeschool? And is that an individualized thing as well? Is that communal, for lack of a better term? Tell me the things.
Anytime I can find a curriculum that works for us, that also has a biblical aspect, we bring that in. For example, writing, we're doing master books writing. We are studying the Bible. They are using Bible literature for writing. I look at the Bible and I say this, and I'll backtrack, but as any other book, right? I feel like sometimes
Literally, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I feel like some people look at the Bible like it's like this untouchable thing, like you can't do schoolwork off of the Bible almost. And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can study the literature. The Bible has genres. You can go through and do all of that. So that's one way, is with curriculum. One of my daughters is using a math curriculum that has Bible scripture within it. Our science, all Bible. But outside of that, we have individualized reading Bible time. So that's how it is geared towards each of my daughters, where they have a Bible that is on their level. They each go and read. We will all read the same scripture sometimes, or other times my oldest may say, right now she's reading the book of Revelation just because she wants to read it. So that's what she'll go off and do. And we talk about it. She has any questions, we go over it. Every morning we do family Bible study. And so we'll have, right now we're doing the not consumed adoration in a manger. So we're doing that on the hymn study. So we're studying hymns and we're doing the Bible verses, and we do that as a family. And I believe that doing the family aspect of it really helps for my girls to see and hear our thoughts as adults, but also they get to bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other as well. For my youngest, it's a growing process. She is learning to believe in God and learning where the Bible is in the books of the Bible and growing in so many different areas. We all are all the time. And so anytime I can put Bible in anything that we're doing, that is what we do, no matter what. And if my daughters decide that they want to read, a book of the Bible that's different than what we're reading, I encourage that, because it allows them to explore God's word and allows the Holy Spirit to speak within them so that they can grow their relationship. We're setting the foundation. They will grow their relationship, and it will be completely different than my relationship with God, than their siblings' relationship, than my husband's, or anyone around them. And it's up to us to nurture that relationship. So by them reading the Bible and understanding what God is asking of them and what, all the stories and everything that's gone on, that's how we incorporate in our homeschool. And I treat it like any other day. So we do Bible on Saturdays and Sundays, even though we may not do homeschool. It is a part of what we do, not just a part of our homeschool.
Are you guys year-round homeschoolers, or you have semesters?
We are year-round homeschoolers. Yay, I love that. We don't take extended breaks.
Okay.
We take in the summer, we usually take maybe 3 or 4 weeks, but it's not a break from school altogether. In that 3 or 4 weeks, we are still reading every day. Of course, our Bible is every day, no matter what. And then we will do educational games. And it kind of just changes it up a little bit, gives us a fun aspect, gives us a break. The girls this past summer went and did some writing camps in acting. And so it allowed us to be able to do some of those things in the process. So we do take that time off. It's just a lot lighter load, but we school all year round. And we actually take every 7 weeks, we take an 8th week off. That is our schedule. So we do 7 weeks of school and then we're off for week 8 and we go back through.
I may have to come back and pick your brain about this because we are strongly considering some type of modified year-round thing.
Yes.
Because especially considering Brigitte's work schedule being so weird and like how do we do that? So I'm gonna come back and ask you more questions about that when we're not podcasting. But what I'm hearing, regarding scripture, it sounds like education in the faith really is a subject and it's woven into everything.
Yes.
And your year-round schooling, I also know like your husband travels a lot, right? For work.
He does, yes.
Does he get to be very involved in the education process? Can you share a little bit about that?
Unfortunately, he does not.
Okay.
If he is home and I say, we're doing Bible, he will come in and join with us.
Yeah.
Or science. He's a big science guy too. So I have called him in and said, can you teach this eye unit on the human body or, things like that. And he will come in and do that. Or I'll say, come in and teach the Bible lesson. But he's not able to fully supportive of everything that we do, is aware of everything that we do. We do a what I call a debriefing at the end of every day. So he knows what's going on, but he's not here enough to be able to do any of the teaching with the girls.
Sure. Yeah. But he still is in the loop on everything. So he gets to
absolutely
engage and
100%.
I love that. I think one of the things that I've seen is difficult for a lot of families, especially with a spouse who travels a lot or is just away for work a lot, is just staying in the loop on things. And even though my wife won't be traveling for work, we'll be doing like a couple or 3 days a week. I'll do a half day at home and she'll do one of her days off during the week for school. And then we'll do a little bit on Saturdays. That's kind of our idea. But I'm just thinking through that. And that's why I asked is like, well, that must be difficult. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. I think what you're saying is you've just got some systems like the debrief, right?
Yes, definitely. The debrief is a huge part of it. And it allows me, honestly, to really reflect on our day because I get to share that with him. I'm like, today we went over this and I'm like, oh, I need to write this down because we struggled in this area a little bit, or this was a huge success. Let's make sure that we continue that, or where we may have stopped with certain things. So I get to bounce all of that off of him. He also gives me ideas. I mean, even though he's not here to do it, he's like, have you thought about this? And sometimes that outside opinion and suggestion is super helpful. You take bits and pieces of it and incorporate what you can. And it just really makes things flow because he knows our girls. He knows me. And so if there's ever a struggle where it's like a personality conflict, those things happen. They really do. But he can help us work through some of those things to better make, our homeschool a little bit better.
I think
make the big.
Well, I love that you guys are making the most of that. And as I'm thinking about that, it's still better than most public school situations would allow you to have because Absolutely. At least you're there. And this is again, I was raised in a public school. My kids have been going to a private school. We're taking them out because we can't afford that no more and because homeschool we think is better for us at this point. But one of the things that I've noticed more and more as we approach becoming a homeschool family is how disconnected we are from everything they're learning. I trust this school a lot. They're a good school. But then I get this progress report in an email and I check it this morning and I'm like, oh, I had no idea he was studying that. I can't remember. It's something in a Spanish class. But like, oh, I could have helped him with that. Oh, and then another one. If he had brought that to me, I didn't even know they were doing that. And that's sad. So I'm really looking forward to that deep involvement together with my wife.
That's one of the things I absolutely love about it. I mean, there are still people who are skeptical of what we do every day. We get a lot of questions. You don't test your girls? Well, how do you know where they are? And I'm like, I teach them. I know exactly where they are. I know exactly what they can and can't do. I know what areas we need to work on, different supplements we need to add in to strengthen things. I know areas where they're so strong that we can take a couple of days and not do that specific area to focus on something else. It's just a part of the rhythm that because you're here, we're here with our children, we're working with them every day. We know where they are. Comparing them to schools, I believe or public school or private school education is a thing of the world that it's like if you don't have the public school or private school telling you where your child is, then it's not valid.
I
And
think there's
so,
like some deeper identity thing there, man.
yes, definitely. Definitely. And it's like, it is valid. We know we are the absolute best ones to be able to educate our children in any aspect. And as you said earlier, we have been teaching our children since before they were born.
Yeah.
They hear our voices, we talk to them. It's just ingrained in people as parents. That is what we do. So what I say to people when they question whether or not my girls are on level, we got this. Like, we're doing good. Our girls are doing good. You'll also get those probing people that want to ask your children a lot of questions about what they did in school today. Well, how do you do this? Well, can you show it to me? We take those people and we say, we're not schooling right now at this moment, but if you want to come over one day and watch us and help us and go through a process with us, we'd love to have you because our door is open and we love it. So it can be hard. That can be a struggle when you have people who oppose what you do, but we are the best ones to educate our children. We know where they are and the levels that they're in. And no public school or private school can tell us that we're doing something that we shouldn't be or that we're not meeting some standard.
I think that'll preach, Morgan. Can I shift us gears a little bit?
Yeah.
I will have some rapid fire things for you, but first,
Mhm.
regarding Made2Homeschool.
Yes.
Would you share with me why you joined Made2Homeschool as a contributor? Why you're part of the team? Because I know we're friends. That's part of it. But like, what
Of
is
course.
the missional aspect of it for you that made you say, "Yeah, I want to be a part of that"?
Community. I know people are probably tired of hearing that word.
That word's
Like,
overused.
honestly.
It's abused.
But if you think about it, we were not made to function in solitude.
Yeah.
Period. I isolated myself so much at the beginning of our homeschool journey for various reasons. Didn't want the criticism, was unsure about what I was doing. You know, my girls were young. I just didn't know. And I'm like, I'm just going to stay over here in my bubble and figure this out.
Okay.
And there are so many homeschool families that do that. And it's a lonely place. It's lonely. And you just isolate yourself. And one thing I thought about is that when we do that, we stop ourselves from being a blessing to other people. We stop with the sharing of our testimonies and the growth process that we've experienced. We are stopping ourselves from being able to help others and receive assistance from other people. So when you brought up Made2Homeschool, I'm like, this is amazing. Yes, I've been on YouTube, but it's not the community. It's not the same feel. I mean, I hopped on there the other day talking about the struggles that I'm going through with my 6-year-old with reading. And I've gotten so many encouraging responses, so many suggestions. And we've been doing this for almost 7 years. And there are still times where I need help. And the fact that I can get to Made2Homeschool and do that, when you brought that up, I'm like, my wheels just started turning about all of the different benefits of the Made2Homeschool community. And that's just one of them. Also, I've told you before, I'm a one-stop shopper, right? I like to go to one place to find what I need. I can go to Made2Homeschool and find so many different resources all in one spot. I don't have to search 10 or 15 different websites and do all of these things. And you get real families, real people who have used things, who know they have experience. They want to share that. And you can trust that everyone is there because they want to be there, not because they're being forced to be there. So Made2Homeschool to me is an amazing place to be for not only community, resources, and bringing yourselves out of isolation so that you can be blessed and you can also be a blessing to other people.
What I love about your answer is, I don't think you meant this, I think it's great. You answered not as part of the team that leads the community, but it sounded like an answer from somebody who just enjoys being there as a member.
That is it.
Well,
that is it.
That's pretty cool. What can I ask you? What is an interaction there that you've seen that made you just go, yeah, I'm in the right place?
Okay. So when we get on the workshops, or on the lives, and you get to see some of the same people. Those interactions with those, I mean, I'm going to mention one name, but Miss Barbara, I just love Her.
She's
I
great.
love her. And she's there and with all the resources. She has the smile on her face. We're talking, just getting on there. So for me, it's always the live interaction. When you get on there and you get to talk with people and see them. And she had answered my question. She had answered my question that I posted about the reading. So when we get on the call, she and I can pick up and we finish talking about that. That speaks volumes to me that people even care enough, number one, to respond to what you said, because they could be like, well, it's hard. I'm just going to move on. She'll be fine. But it's love. It's consideration. So that every time I get on a live, to me, that's the interactions. And that happens with multiple people. But Miss Barbara just popped out of my mind because
I love
she's
that.
so sweet. And I just love talking
She'll
to her.
probably listen to this, and I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
I
I
hope so.
do love that we get to build, and it's online, but like real like friendships with people, because it's
Yes.
not like a Facebook. It's
Nothing like.
not full of trolls, because we don't do that.
No.
There's that.
All positive energy
Yeah,
all the
facts.
time.
Okay, so a couple other quick ones, Morgan. You know, you've been
Let's see.
homeschooling for 7 years.
Yes.
In those 7 years, what has been your greatest unexpected hurdle on your homeschool journey?
Greatest unexpected hurdle. When I realized that I had to change things about my approach to better educate my girls. I never thought that that would be necessary. And I'm pretty sure that's public school education experiences, but I didn't know that I would have to change my mindset about so many different things in order to reach each one of my girls individually. Because I was set on things, being a one way. That's what we get used to. You go to school, this is how the information is presented. And for me, it was presented in a take it or leave it mentality. Like, here's what you get, and that's it. So when I started out, I was thinking, what do they say? There's one way to skin a cat, which is terrible. But like there are multiple ways to get to what you need to do and what you're trying to achieve. And so that was a huge hurdle for me in the beginning. And I've had many hurdles since then, but they've been different. And I think there's a process that we go through and things change. So I would say that for me, that was the biggest hurdle, just adjusting my mindset to make sure that I was achieving the goals for each one of my girls individually, not as a collective group.
And
Did that make sense?
It makes sense. And you are, for those who don't know you yet, and if you all don't, you should get to know Morgan. But I would say you strike me as a creature of habit. Stability is your friend, consistency. So that was a stretching thing for you, huh?
Yes, that is exactly it. I love things. If I can keep something the same, what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Like, if I can keep it the same, let's go with it. But that was broken, so it had to be fixed. So yes, I do like a habit.
Yeah.
We still have our habits now, but it's tailored to each one of my girls. And that was a big thing. So I like processes, I like routines, schedules. That's how we operate within our home. I know a lot of people don't like that. They say it's too restrictive, but when you have 3 girls and tons of extracurricular activities and 3 different learning styles and tons of other things, a husband who's traveling, for me, I need to have some consistency with our schedule. So I'm a big scheduler. I'm a meal planner. I go to the grocery store the same days every week. It's all the same. I try to keep things as much as possible the same to allow for other areas in the unexpected, because those things do happen.
And so this individualization is a struggle, but what about on the other side, Morgan? What has been your greatest unexpected blessing in the homeschool journey?
Oh man, the fact that I get to, and this may not even be homeschool related, people may feel, but the relationships that I'm developing with my girls, because we spend so much time together, is nothing that I've ever experienced. It's nothing I ever imagined. We have such amazing relationships. And I just never imagined that. I never imagined that as a mother, even before the thought of homeschooling. And so now I can look at my girls and we can have individual conversations, group conversations. And that was an unexpected thing. When I thought about homeschooling, I never thought about the growth and relationship and connection portion of it from the beginning. I went from wanting time to now we need to educate the best way possible. And I didn't think, it was like the wanting time or relationship kind of took a back seat until I realized, like, wow, we're growing together. We're doing this together. And so I love that. I love that I can sit down with my girls and we just have amazing relationships. That's not necessarily the learning aspect of it for homeschool, but it's a big deal for me. And I think it makes the educational portion of it that much easier.
But it's a blessing for your family. And I wonder, Morgan, isn't the development and depth of those relationships a result of to some extent, of your effort at individualizing the care, of your approach to educating those kids? Would
You
you
would have
have those relationships the same way if you hadn't worked so hard on loving them where they're at and the way God made them?
No, we would be fighting. I don't know that we would be on a 7-year journey. It's possible they could be in private school, public school. You never know. But it makes a difference because they trust me.
Yeah.
They know that I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that they are comfortable in understanding what it is that they are learning. And I trust that what I'm presenting to them, they are making a huge effort to get it because it's something that they enjoy. Now, does this mean that they're going to love every subject? No, it doesn't. Individualized learning doesn't mean that they love every subject. Let me say that. But there are a lot of things about any subject that if I can individualize it for them, it makes it that much better. So the relationships, all of that. We have good relationships in the classroom and out of the classroom.
It's funny. I asked that question, I think, of all the contributors I've interviewed so far. And pretty consistently, there's a pattern there that the greatest blessing is a result of overcoming the greatest hurdle. And
I didn't even realize that correlated. You did that.
that's what it sounded like it to me. But hey, I'm just over here thinking. I love that. Morgan, real quick, what is your biggest hot take or unpopular opinion about the homeschool world?
Okay, I just said it, that they're not going to love everything, but some things they have to do anyway. You just have to do it. Right now, my 6-year-old is going through a phase where she doesn't want to read. She's like, I don't need to learn how to read, but you do need to learn how to read. And so we have to do that. Then I individualize it so that she gets excited about it. But just because your child doesn't want to do it doesn't mean that they don't have to. There are some things that they just have to do. And there are a lot of people who feel like, no, but that's how it is in our home. There are going to be things, my oldest doesn't like science, but we're not taking science out of our home. You've got to learn science.
Sometimes you have to be the parent.
Exactly.
Morgan, if there is a mom out there with young kids or dad, parent, they're working and they really want to start homeschooling, they just don't think they can make it happen, and they're listening to you today, what do you have to say to them?
You can make it happen. My first step is going to be to pray and make sure that this is the path that God would have you to take. And after that, you channel your resources and work through it. I know tons of families who have both parents who work and they still homeschool their children. Look at your schedule, how things can change, take it one day, one step at a time, and adjust things to fit your home and no one else's.
Where can people find you, friend?
I am everywhere. No, I am on YouTube at Life of Tillmans and also on Instagram at Life of Tillmans. Same place.
And now on Made2Homeschool as well.
Yes, of course.
Hey, Morgan, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this. You're a tremendous human being. If y'all don't know her, go find her and follow her. And we'll see you around at Made2Homeschool.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks.